I'm Patrick Pacheco. Join me as I sit down and chat with famed songwriting team Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez on the next episode of Theater, All the Moving Parts. Hello, and welcome to this virtual episode of Theater, All the Moving Parts. Joining me is one of the most celebrated songwriting teams in history, Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez. Their songs for the Disney Plus series WandaVision has brought them new acclaim, but Bobby has won Oscars, Tonys, Grammys, and Emmys for such productions as Avenue Q, Book of Mormon, and Frozen. Kristen has shared in those awards, collaborating with Bobby on Frozen, Up Here, Coco, and many, many other shows. She created in her own right the musical In Transit. Welcome to you both.
Hi, how are you?
Good, it's so good to be with both of you. Let me start by asking, what is the difference between writing theme songs for a series like WandaVision, which we should say is about superheroes in suburbia, and writing for musical theater?
It is so much easier to write theme songs. It is so fun to write theme songs. The metaphor I like to use is when you're writing a musical, you're basically the architect of a giant building, and it can take 7 years to build this building. You're building from scratch, character, story, arc. It's just hours and hours and hours. It's fun, but it's years of hard work thinking about story and where the songs go. A theme song is like decorating the window or decorating the lobby of the building that's already been built. So all you have to do is set the tone and pick out some textures and some lovely pillows, and it's a lovely job.
Bobby, for setting that tone, you were asked to write theme songs from 6 distinct television eras. In doing so, what shows were you inspired by in different eras of television?
The two of us were TV addicts as kids, obviously. We're Gen X. So we had already done our research just from, not listening to our parents and not going outside for our entire childhoods. But it was basically kind of like the rerun mashup that every day, whenever you were sick from school, you would get to stay home, and it would start the day with I Love Lucy, and then My Three Sons, and it would go into Bewitched and the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family, and would finally, by the time everyone else was home from school, Different Strokes would be on, and it would be the 80s. So those were among some of the songs we listened to. Basically, we got to go through what they called sitcom boot camp, and we rewatched all this stuff. It's such gold. It's so wonderful. It's like our culture's treasure trove of melodic material, the lingua franca of everybody's subconscious. Part of the challenge of it was, how shall we unite all these disparate theme songs besides the title WandaVision and the graphics and the actors? How are we going to let people know that this is all from the same show? Because there are different theme songs. Usually one TV show has one theme song. So we chose a motif, almost like the NBC network brand, bum, 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 or Nabisco. Just something that would go after every song or somehow be worked into every song. Ours was WandaVision. Having that gave us a place to start with every song. Okay, we're doing Dick Van Dyke or I Love Lucy. Where would the WandaVision motif go in this composition? So it gave us somewhere to start for every single one, and it's in every single one of them. And every one of the songs was kind of a joy because A, there were models to work from. B, we really connected to this material. It was about this family, this couple getting together, living in a place. They sort of had superpowers. and there was this sort of unspoken element of grief because of what had happened previous to the events of WandaVision. Every couple has hard times, and we related to that. Any dealing with these deep feelings of sadness is something every couple has to do, and we totally related to trying to keep things together through emotional crisis.
Yeah, it's never been more true than this year in some ways. WandaVision hit at this moment that every family in America is living in this bubble and having to pivot and adjust day by day. So I was just amazed with the way that the material resonated with our current reality.
One of the breakout hits, obviously, is Agatha All Along.
Who's been messing up everything? It's been Agatha all along.
Tell us a little bit about the development of that song and how you worked together for it.
That was the last one we wrote. So we had already been through the decades, and Agatha could really go anywhere. And in fact, the original script had That's So Agnes, because her name was Agnes. We weren't that familiar with That's So Raven because we were in college during those years. So it wasn't where our comfort zone was lying. And then Bobby he sort of thought about it. That girl, he's the one who said, like, how about if it's Agatha all along in a that girl kind of way? So Bobby actually changed the hook. But then I came in and we tried to be very supportive to each other and never like shut something down. But I wasn't really feeling his that girl approach. And one of the rules in our relationship is you can't just like shut something down if you don't have a better suggestion. So I can't just say like, oh, I don't love it. I have to say like, could we maybe try something? I had this idea in the shower of doing like a Munsters meets Addams Family meets Monster Mash, like embracing the witchness of it. And so that's how we found that that's sort of the culmination of all of the themes you've heard.
What is the difference between writing for children, say, or for a children's audience, and writing for more adult-themed shows?
We never specifically write for children. We always try to write the song that we would want to see in the source material that we're working with. So, Frozen was never meant to be this little girl's vessel. It's wonderful that little girls have connected to it, but it's written specifically about a family that has experienced trauma and people have gotten frozen into their roles. It's very psychological, and it was also written to try and rewrite the princess narrative that a prince will come and save you, and to try and redefine true love. So we approach everything from a very grown-up place, and WandaVision in some ways was us tapping into the kids that used to watch these TV shows. So maybe it's probably one of the more youthful ways that we've ever approached.
The two of you met at a BMI writing workshop. Did you meet cute, or you want to tell us a little bit about how you met at BMI?
Actually, it was a little bit of a meet cute. The first time we ever saw each other was at the very first presentation of any material from Avenue Q. And it was before we even had any puppets or anything like that. We knew we wanted it to be puppets, but we didn't have any. And so I kind of drew the short straw, and I had to play Kate Monster, the girl puppet. We got this kind of red yarn wig that had pigtails, and I walked in wearing it, and we were doing a song from Avenue Q, and Kristen was in the audience. She was in the first year class, and I was in the third year class. And she came up to me afterwards and was like, "That was great." It was the first time a girl had ever really kind of come up to me at BMI with this kind of energy. And I was like, I'm going to get her number.
That can't possibly be true, Bobby. I tell it differently. I was in a place where I was out of a relationship where I lived with a guy and for like 5 years. And I was in this wonderful new chapter in my life where I just got into the BMI workshop. And I was pivoting from being an actress to being a writer and falling in love with writing and finally like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And in walks this cute guy with his shiny, floppy black hair in a blue shirt who proceeds to sing the funniest material I've ever heard. And I honestly had this moment of like, I think that's who I'm going to marry. I think I'm going to marry him. So I went up to him with like, he doesn't know, but he's my future husband. And I think this show is so great. And then he slipped me his demo, which was a CD that he had self-made that had his number on it. But then I happened to be lucky enough to sing for his class the next day. And so the next day we were in class together. So it felt like it was meant to be. And we went out after that. And, yeah.
When you decided to collaborate together, what were some of the first bumps that you had to navigate?
I think at first we had a little bit of that. I was sort of the more advanced in my career, and I kind of thought I had to be the leader, and she was sort of the junior partner, which is just not a good dynamic in any collaboration. Also, I had a lot of feelings about perfectionism. I was super perfectionist and still am in a lot of ways, but I've learned that it's the person you're working with is more important than the thing you're working on. In every situation, people are more important. And that's something I had to learn. But ever since I realized that and got more on Kristen's wavelength, that like the worst thing we can do is really damage our relationship, not write a bad song. We can always chuck a bad song. The quality of the songwriting has never suffered, but our level of fun doing it has risen and risen and risen. And to me, it's been a real gift because I used to really torture myself and started to want to not work anymore.
Wow. Kristen?
I would say it's so funny because to me, the thing I've had to work on is not barreling in with 7 ideas. Because I definitely am a big picture thinker and get a lot of energy at the beginning of a problem and say like, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And sometimes that would really squelch Bobby's energy. He likes to wait for it to come to him, whereas I like to sort of like say this or this or that and like hammer it. And we've had to kind of meet halfway and find ways that he's allowed to simmer and I can kind of be a little less of a
You've had such tremendous success. Is that intimidating? How do you handle the bar being set so high by these external awards, I suppose, the expectations of that success? How have you managed to navigate that?
I just have been doing a lot of thinking about Sondheim's Move On song. We have wonderful role models in our business of people who have achieved things far beyond what we can ever imagine. Stephen Sondheim, who's ever going to top that? And yet, in his lyrics, he talks about wanting to please other people and how to get out of his own way. In that song Move On. So to me, I look to the great artists who come before and say, well, they figured out a way to, recover from that extreme moment of success or that extreme moment of failure and just get to the next project.
Mm-hmm. Bobby?
I think the biggest example of that feeling pressure was Frozen 2. We were literally following up a very big success with Let It Go and Frozen 1. There's been very few musical sequels that I think people would put in their list of top 10 favorites. So there was a lot of pressure on that project to deliver and somehow top the original. But I'm so proud that we were able to kind of get over the hump and create a story that is very different from the first one and has very different kind of music and very different story, and find a way to have these characters sing again. Whether it tops the original, I don't know, but it in the end, I think we're really proud of it, and we did Anna and Elsa proud. But that was the most pressure I've ever actually felt.
Um, when you're doing a lyric and a song, how do you make it not over egg the custard, so that the audience can take it all in, but not make it too simple so that it becomes dull?
That's tricky. Because we like to write simple. We like to create melodies that have a shape. The music should have an inner logic, as well as having sentiment and the emotional journey of a song from beginning to end, from A to B.
I would add that we rely a lot, and we don't do this in a vacuum. We work with amazing book writers. So Jennifer Lee has a very specific voice that is, there's a vein through every lyric in Frozen that comes from Jen and the playground she built through her book. And now we're working on something with Stephen Levinson, and he's got this beautiful command of prose that I steal all the time. I take that poetry that he puts in explaining what he thinks the song is about, and I just turn to it again and again. The key is great book writers and a wonderful communication with your book writers.
The project with Levinson, I'm hoping, is for the stage.
It's not.
It's not.
Yes. But we do have things for the stage that we're developing.
Oh, good. Oh, good. You could tell by my question that I'm afraid that you've been seduced by the film and television worlds, and we miss you in the theater.
Well, the theater, we miss the theater. We miss just going to the theater and being able to go to Broadway and see a show and see all the shows as we do every year. It's been so sad to see the devastation on the community wrought by the pandemic. But we do have, I would say, we have 2 stage projects kind of brewing right now. Yeah, 2.
Hey, can you tell us anything about them?
They have not announced.
Yeah, nothing. The only thing we can tell you about is this wonderful project we're doing with Amy Herzog, called The Prince and the Dressmaker. And we're doing that as produced by Mark Platt and Universal. And it's a beautiful graphic novel that is a fairy tale, except it really explores gender fluidity and flips a lot of the tropes. And it's bright and fantastical, and we've had a wonderful time working with Amy on it.
Amy Herzog is writing the book.
Well, I mean, she sort of tees us up with this beautiful dialogue, and then the energy of that dialogue just inspires us to match that intellectual way she approaches everything.
That's exciting, and the other 2 projects sound very exciting as well. I think it's you'll be able to help New York revivify once this pandemic is behind us. So I hope that you'll keep that in mind. Have you thought about, in the way that Marvin Hamlisch and Carol Bader Sager wrote a musical about their own collaboration and they're playing our song, have you ever sort of thought about writing a musical about your collaboration?
Well, we had this show. Our last original musical that we wrote was called Up Here, and it was a collaboration with the director Alex Timbers, and it was very much, it wasn't about songwriters, but it was about a couple that was sort of based on our personalities, like the very introverted guy who thinks about a lot of things but doesn't express them, and the very out there, what you see is what you get kind of girl. And I think the project has so much potential. That's one of the things that we're looking to do. We're looking to dive back into that and see what's in there, what's left to say. A lot of what used to be the original draft felt like it wouldn't translate in today's terms, but the concept of being in someone's mind has always appealed to us, and writing about the interior state as it's happening of 2 people in a relationship. The core of that has been very, very interesting to us still.
Yeah, I followed it when it was at La Jolla, wasn't it, in San Diego in 2015, and found it utterly fascinating, particularly because you probably live so much of your life in your imagination, in your mind. And do you find that you have to reel yourself back in and that your children, Annie and Kate, help you do that and keep things even?
Absolutely. I would say that Katie and Annie have been this great, wonderful gift to our collaboration. If you're a writer, there's nothing more informative than trying to shape two human beings about that help you kind of understand what it is that human beings go through in every stage of development. But also now they are introducing us to musical influences that we never would have found on our own. And so, our daughter will on a car trip ride up to our place in Connecticut, she'll play us a bunch of new things. And then I told her today or yesterday, I told her like, you can guarantee that this song is going to influence what we write this week. And I think she likes to see that too.
Do you have rules to keep the professional separate from the personal? Or is that a difficult boundary is that boundary fairly porous?
I like to keep more of a boundary, I guess, just because it's hard to go to sleep when you're kind of thinking about work. And I really like to kind of fall down asleep at night. So my rule is Kristen can't bring up an idea as we're going to sleep, because it just makes my heart start to beat. It makes me anxious. Other than that, we try not to be songwriting at the dinner table. That's kind of rude. But in terms of singing all the time, we are always singing. We're always doing music. And this whole pandemic, we've been all working and living in the same building, together all day long.
This pandemic has been extra hard and actually showed the importance of keeping things separate, because I find that creativity needs long stretches of time. And for me, especially because I tend to write the first draft of most of our lyrics, I sometimes just need give me 2 hours where I don't have to make a sandwich for someone or, answer the door for a UPS delivery or go to the grocery store. And that's been very challenging when everything is happening all in the same house with 4 people there all the time. And so carving out that flow time became very important to be able to meet any of our deadlines. I would say we've written 15 to 20 songs in this pandemic, but it took a lot of strategy to do it.
The last question is, of course, this year has been filled with all sorts of social activism about Black Lives Matter and so many other issues that have come to the forefront. I know that your shows have been very moving. I know Coco had a huge impact on my family because of its story and my Latino background. What in WandaVision do you think is a message for today?
If there was one message that we all have really had to learn this year, is that lived experiences, listening to lived experiences and lived stories is a very powerful thing, but also needs to be done correctly. I think Wanda, the story of Wanda, who's going through this incredible grief, is sort of invalidated by the people who want to use her power, use Vision's power. Nobody's really listening to the grief and what she needs to express. The way that translates is for those of us who have not had, or for those of us who are listening to someone explain their own pain and their own lived experience, how important it is to just witness and listen. Don't try to invalidate. Don't get defensive. Just listen. Don't even try to intellectualize what someone else's lived experience could be, because that minimizes and erases their life and their pain. And then it's important to sit with it, witness that, and then say, how can I help fix this? Not, I know how to fix this. And I think that's a really important process that we're doing in our industry right now.
That humility. Bobby, you get the last word.
Well, I think as a person of color, that it's so exciting to watch the world change before your eyes like this and to become a part of it. I got to say that I've been part of the world of white power, white supremacy, wanting to be more and more white growing up, just wanting to run away from my own heritage and the covering, as they say. And I think that what's been beautiful about this is to watch maybe the possibility of a world where kids like me don't have to do that and don't have to feel this internalized struggle open up.
I'm sure you're aware of just how much pride Filipinos take in you and your success.
That makes me so happy, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of that community.
Great. Well, thank you both. Thank you so much for a fascinating conversation. We look forward to more from you, as you know, as Sondheim says in Move On, or you know, give us more to see. So please give us more to see.
Thank you so much, Patrick.
And thank you for joining us. We look forward to bringing you more stimulating conversations with artists and thought leaders as New York theater, that fabulous invalid, regains its invaluable place in American culture. I'm Patrick Pacheco.